Hi everyone, a very good morning to all of you. Today is 1st of December and I welcome you all to Hindu newspaper analysis discussion. In this particular video, we are going to take up entire analysis of newspaper along with all the articles and their background. Now, first of all, let's take overview of entire newspaper so that you can understand that which articles are important for our examination, and after that we'll take detailed discussion of videos. Also, I would like to tell you that you can download explainer notes of this particular session from Telegram channel. Link for Telegram is given in description box in YouTube. Okay, so let's take overview. So here on first page, here we have the articles talking about poll predictions, okay, voter turnout and all such kind of things, not important for examination. Then further moving on, hit job is not our policy, says India on US charges. So recently we have seen that US has indicted one of an Indian national with respect to killing of a, basically with with respect to killing of a person, okay, who has been the founder of founder of the Six for Justice. Okay, now guys, one point that I would like to put here is that you are not really required to track this particular incident too much in details. However, you can just understand this particular thing, that when we talk about relations between any of the two countries, there are certain points of convergences and certain points of irritants. So between India USA relation, we can see this particular thing as an irritant. Now, further moving on in this particular direction, GDP surges 7.6% in quarter two, goes past RBI forecast. Okay, now guys, basically the quarter two's data has been given here. Then further moving on, after that we have advertisements, and in regional section we have air quality index and regional issues. Okay, now one point I would like to tell you guys here, that in regional pages much relevant articles are often not there, because largely they talk about the law and order related issues, political news, crime related news, etc. Moreover, if you have some different editions, this section will be different in your papers. However, one important article is there in the regional section, and let's take that article. So here we have article Kerala host transplant games. So we'll see this particular article as what it is talking about with respect to examination, and then we have these tenders, etc., advertisements. So we'll skip. Okay, here we have one article, spotlight article, the risk and desire that drive dating apps. Okay, so guys, I have read this entire article, but article does not contains much of substance which is academically important. It is just talking, narrating the stories of people who have installed these dating apps such as Tinder, etc., and then they fell in a trap and they lost money and all such kind of a thing. So these stories have been given which are not important for exam point of view. Then further moving on in this particular direction, we have Metro Plus page again. Now, then in editorial section, guys, now we have some articles. For example, here we have article making this Israel-Palestinian war the last, broadcast regulation 3.0, commissions and omissions. Okay, now first of all, understand guys a few things. Number one, this article is talking about the Israel-Palestine war that is going on, accounts of this particular war, how the war will come to an end, okay, what should be done by Israel now, all such things have been provided. Now, first of all, few things you need to understand, that guys, right now between Hamas and Israel, this war is going on. Though for some times pause have been brought in this particular war after a deal that got signed between Hamas and Israel in exchange of hostages, but the war is still going on. Now, one thing is that there are going to be a lot of changes, there are going to be a lot of things which will evolve over a period of time. So everyday commentary on the war, all those articles, they are not going to make much of the sense for the examination. So everyday updates in that respect are academically or exam point of view are not going to be that much important. Secondly, guys, here we have one more article, broadcast regulation 3.0. Now what this article is, this article talks about the broadcasting service bill that has recently been released by the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. Okay, now this particular bill largely aims to bring changes into the broadcasting structure. Fine. Now, one more thing, guys, that again, are you really required to go in these particular articles? Now, if you read the heading, okay, or if you read the first paragraph, broadcasting service bill, now see this particular thing, it will seem that we have to read that entire article and we need to have notes of this entire article, but it is still a bill. and being a bill, it will go and it will undergo a lot of modification, a lot of amendments, and final act that will come will going to be a very much different from the bill version. Okay, so what point I'm trying to make? I am trying to make, guys, that every particular bills, all the features, all the highlights, or all the major provisions should be seen only when the bill has actually been passed in the parliament or it has become an act. Okay, because till that time a lot of changes will be coming, and therefore I will not advise you to waste so much of the time in making the notes of that. Okay, then further moving on is the emerging global order bipolar. Now this particular article is very important because it is discussing the geopolitical dimensions of China's rise and related things. So for GS paper number 2 international relations section, this is going to be a very important article. Okay, so my point is that you need to learn an art of decoding newspapers simply on YouTube. Okay, you will find that every day updates of war are being given. Now it will look to you that okay, you should read them, but for exam, ask yourself a question that in examination on these things could question be there or not. Okay, then further moving on in text and context, understanding simultaneous selection. So it is an important concept, though this is a kind of a thing that Hindu has given many articles on this particular line, but the topic has been an important one. We'll take this also, don't worry. Okay, this article also will be covered up. Then in text and context, limelight, understanding the stylish and imitable works of Sofia Coppola. Okay, then moving on in this particular direction. Okay, so here we have three important articles which are important with respect to indigenization of defense, GS paper number 3, and other related topics. I will show you. First, we have one article here, 2.23 lakh crore to buy 97 Tejas jets. Okay, so we'll take this particular article. Apart from that, there are the other articles also, okay, which are important. For example, Navy gets ready for its biggest naval exercise. We'll take this particular article also, and there is also one more article, 3 anti-submarine warfare ships for Indian Navy launched. So we'll take all these articles for exam. Then further moving on, loss and damage fund cleared on day 1 of COP 28. We'll take this particular article also for examination. Congress poll, which government, which political party will form government, etc. Not important. So therefore, no need to go too much in that detail. Then after that, further moving on, Kissinger, Nixon helped Pakistan in 1971 document from US archive reveal. So basically, guys, what has happened recently? Recently, Henry Kissinger. Okay, so there is one more article. I will show you that also. Then I will come to here. Okay, yes. So here's this one more article also. So basically, Harry Kissinger, okay, who has been the Secretary of State of USA. Okay, now he was Secretary of State of USA when 1971 war was going on, and at that point of a time, they have helped Pakistan. So basically, certain files which were archived, now these particular files have been released because we have seen that recently Harry Kissinger have been passed out. Okay, and Henry Kissinger has passed out. So they provide this particular thing that in 1971 they have outrightly supported Pakistan, and they were much concerned that Pakistan should not crumble down against India. So they have been supportive of Pakistan. So these particular revelations have been made. Again, guys, moving on, this particular thing already have been there out in the history, nothing much that is entirely new. Okay, earlier there were also these speculations that were going on. Now they have been made it clear. Then further moving on, Silkyara tunnel construction will restart soon. So this is the same tunnel where this recently collapse happened. Then further moving on in this particular direction. Fine. Gaza truce extended by 1 day. Then further, guys, in this particular capacity, then China calls for immediate sustained humanitarian truce in Israel-Hamas war. Okay, so then in business page, core sector growth is speeding to 12.1%, which shows a good recovery. Then, guys, fiscal deficit touches 45% of full year target. Okay, so basically, guys, when we talk about the fiscal deficit, so government's fiscal deficit already has reached 8.03 lakh crore rupees. Okay, already 8.03 lakh crore rupees have been reached. Okay, so this is the 45% already breached. Already we have fulfilled the target. Then further moving on, India's oil imports from Russia sees a rebound. Fine. Then, guys, we have sports page, and after that we have we have science page, and science page today is talking about the spread of AIDS. So we'll take this particular article with respect to health related issues, GS paper number 2. Okay, so this is brief overview of newspaper, and objective of this brief overview is just one, to give you, to show you, rather not telling you, rather to show you the placement of articles, as well as to show you as how you should skim through paper. Because every topper, because see, every topper say that we complete paper in 1 hour or 1.5 hour, but that is not possible if you are reading and going through every article that has been published. So if you see, guys, when we talk about a newspaper, so here we find that a newspaper actually, okay, so newspaper actually is a document of 18 pages are there, then science pages additional, sports pages additional, around 20-24 pages document. You cannot read every page. You have carefully to select the articles. Okay, now let's take all relevant articles one by one in detail. So as I told you, you can download synoptic notes from our Telegram channel, and we start every class with a GS quotation that can be used to complement your answers in examination. So today we'll take quotation from Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, so Gandhiji says, I will strive for an India in which even the poorest of the poor shall feel that this is their country, a country where their voice matters, where their voice matters. So basically, guys, when we talk about a democracy, why democracy is celebrated? Because democracy gives equal importance to every citizen of a society, irrespective of their caste, irrespective of their religion, irrespective of their economic status. And when we talk about Gandhiji wanted to achieve democracy in its spirit, where the voice of every person will matter, where every person thinks that they are meaningful contributors in the society. This particular idea can be utilized in GS paper number 2, governance and polity, as well as in essay. This idea can be utilized. Now, moving on in this particular direction. Moving on in this particular direction. Okay, guys, so as you already might be knowing about our power play test series, which we are starting from 11th of December. Okay, and in this particular test series, we are going to have 70 plus tests, including both GS and CSAT. GS and CSAT, there will be sectional test as well as the full length test that are going to be there. And very fast, we are all very fast the seats are filling in this particular module. And as you already might be knowing that this particular test series will have dedicated test on current affairs, economic survey, budget, and the questions that have been designed, they strictly match UPSC standards, which has changed in last few years. And for first 500 enrollments, we are offering this particular test series as at a highly subsidized price of 999 plus taxes. Okay, and the seats are filling. So if you are planning to join the test series, you can consider before we revert to the original pricing of 3999 plus taxes. Okay, so moving on, and more you can know about this course, I will put the details into the comment, you can see there. Then okay, let's take the first article for today. The spread of AIDS can be stopped with science-backed protocols. With the help of the science-backed protocols. Okay. Now this particular article will take with respect to GS paper number 2. GS paper number 2, health and related issues. Health and related issues. Just a minute. Okay. Now, so basically this particular article, guys, it's talking about spread of AIDS and how with the help of government interventions, AIDS could be mitigated. Now, first of all, guys, when we talk about the HIV/AIDS, HIV stands for HIV stands for Human Immunodeficiency Virus. Human Immunodeficiency Virus. And when we talk about the HIV, first case of HIV was identified in 1981, and post 1981, HIV/AIDS pandemic has started to spread. Guys, as of today, when we talk about HIV, more than 39 million people who are living with HIV. And in India alone, around 2.4 million, that is 24 lakh people, are suffering with HIV. Now, when we talk about HIV, so the highest prevalence of HIV has been there in a particular group of people. For example, female sex workers, men having sex with men, transgender community, the people who abuse drugs, because of rampant abuse of drugs, often sterilized needles are not used, so therefore AIDS become rampant in this particular community. Now, guys, when we talk about any person who acquires AIDS, HIV, who acquires HIV virus, they face suppressed immunity, or they face an immunity compromise, and because of this immunity compromise, they become vulnerable to many of common infections which usually will not impact a healthy person, and they become highly susceptible to opportunistic infections, and these opportunistic infections includes tuberculosis, it includes fungal meningitis, pneumonia, diarrhea, a variety of skin lesions, and even certain cancers which might not have impacted a healthy person impacts them because their immunity gets compromised because of HIV's infections. Now, guys, we often find that these opportunistic infections and often disease that impact a person, they are treatable, they are preventable, but because proper medications are not available, the people are suffering. Now, when we talk about World Health Organization has prepared guidelines for treatment and for prevention of these opportunistic infections, but they have not been properly implemented. Now, when we talk about these guidelines, some of the examples or some of the steps I would like to tell you about this guideline. Now, you see, okay, now guys, you can see this particular thing here, that first of all, there are ART therapies that can be given to people suffering with AIDS. Now, what are the ART stands for antiretroviral therapy. And soon after diagnosis of AIDS, if ART therapy is given to people, their symptoms, their probability of getting infected by opportunistic diseases, it comes down drastically. And guys, when we talk about India is world's largest generic drug manufacturer, and also India manufactures huge quantities of antiretroviral therapies. And if we talk about, guys, 90% of antiretrovirals that are consumed not in India but in entire world, they were made in India. So world's 90% world's 90% antiretrovirals, they are manufactured by India. But in India, people are not being given excess of these antiretrovirals because of non-availability, because people don't have awareness. So this is something that can be implemented. Moreover, people who suffer with AIDS, they also face non-communicable diseases. Now, when we talk about non-communicable diseases have been called as silent killers by the Lancet Health, and Lancet Health provides this particular thing, that non-communicable disease burden is one of the biggest on the developing countries, particularly such as the countries like India. Now, even in the non-communicable disease category, the disease non-communicable disease category, diabetes, hypertension, kidney disease, they impact the people with the HIV, particularly heart disease. Okay, they have they pose a considerable burden. Now, in this particular capacity, guidelines which have been developed by WHO, they recommend that people living with HIV and who are aged above 40 should take statin to reduce their risk of heart disease. But even it has not been implemented. Now, when we talk about India, So we have national HIV program, national HIV program. Now India's national HIV program needs to be re-envisioned and needs to ensure that it becomes WHO compliant, and all the recommendations such as giving statin, such as antiretroviral therapy should be implemented and should be made accessible to everyone. And it has been said that by 2025 India should take a target that 95% of all people living with HIV, PLHIV stands for people living with HIV. So 95% of all the people living with HIV, they should be diagnosed. They should be diagnosed. First of all, people often don't have knowledge that actually they are suffering with AIDS. So first, they should be diagnosed. After that, after that, so 95% suffering should be diagnosed. Their 95% should be given antiretroviral treatment, and 95% of them should see a suppressed viral load. Right now it is 86%, 89% and 93%. Only 86% people are getting diagnosed, and of that only 89% people are getting antiretroviral therapy. So these numbers are to be increased. So this is guys all about this particular article. I hope that you have understood it. And now moving to next article. Is the emerging global order bipolar? Now this is a very good article with respect to GS paper number 2, international relation, international affairs, global order, world global order, etc. Now let's take this particular article. Okay, now let's take this particular article. So basically guys, right now we see that the world is witnessing a lot of geopolitical disruptions. Now what geopolitical disruptions world is facing? Now you might be knowing these already, but major disruptions that we have right now, is that number one, China's meteoric rise. And as China is rising, it has increased anxieties of America, because right now America perceives itself as only superpower, and it's now facing tough competition from China. So because of this particular thing, it has unleashed a superpower competition between US and China. Second is Russia has now started to challenge West and USA. And this Russia is doing by outrightly through Russia-Ukraine war that is going on, okay, and nearly 2 years are happening for this particular war. After that guys, we see this particular thing that in West Asia, Israel Hamas war is going on, and Israel is carrying brutal attacks on Gaza. So this is one more geopolitical problem that is going on in the world. And then there are several middle powers that has emerged. Now when we talk about middle powers, in middle powers we have example of China, oh sorry, we have example of India, we have example of Japan. Okay, so these middle powers, they are looking for their own place. Okay, now when we talk about this, okay, there is one question. What do you mean by global order? Global order is the way in which the countries have arranged in terms of their power dynamics, in terms of their relations, in terms of their competition. So this entire arrangement, that how countries are interacting with each other, which country is more powerful, what is the hierarchy of countries in terms of their power, economic power, military power, this entire arrangement is called as global order. Okay, now further moving on. So basically guys, as we talk about the status of the world, so there are many particular ways to see how world is arranged, right now. Number one, it is said that right now there is economic multipolarity. There are multiple countries which hold economic power. We have major economies, so multipolarity is going on. After that, it is said that militarily there is unipolarity, because even today USA has unmatchable military prowess. So in military terms unipolarity, but in economic terms multipolarity. Many economic powers have emerged. Okay, now at the same time guys, one viewpoint that emerges. Now these are multiple viewpoints, you can use it directly in your answer. One of the viewpoint that emerges is that there is asymmetric bipolarity. Bipolarity means there are two powerhouses, okay, there are two centers of power. asymmetric bipolarity. On one hand, we have USA. On one hand, we have China. On one hand, we have China. Now, why it is asymmetric? Because today, USA is still far more superior than China in terms of military. But second competition of China is second competitor of USA is none other but the China. So between China and USA, there is a asymmetric competition that is going on, and this is a bipolarity that is there right now in the world, and this difference that is there, it is being closed down very rapidly by China. It is being closed down very rapidly by China. Okay, now secondly, on when we talk about the economic superiority, when we talk about economic superiority, still USA is unmatchable, but China is catching here also very fast. For example, China's GDP in 1990 was just around $300 billion, but today China's GDP stands at $19.3 trillion. So you can see how much a distance they have traveled. So soon they will catch up with the USA. Now, we are discussing so much about the concept of superpower. Now, what is superpower? What is the difference between superpower and great power? So first of all, great powers are those powers who can control multiple events in the world. Okay, they can control the events going on in northern hemisphere, going on in southern hemisphere, western hemisphere, eastern hemisphere. So okay, so basically great powers are those powers which can control multiple events, and superpowers are those countries which can control multiple events simultaneously. For example, USA. Right now, USA is involved very much actively in Russia, Ukraine, in Europe, and at the same time with the Israel it is actively involved, and at the same time in Indo-Pacific it is involved to contain China. Okay, so this is the superpowers. These are the superpowers. Now, further moving on in this particular direction, so it is being said that as these geopolitical events right now are going in the world, for example, Russia-Ukraine war is going on, and after Russia-Ukraine war, we have seen that Russia has been isolated by West. Okay, so can we say that Russia has driven deeper in China's embrace? Can we say that Russia has become more dependent on China? And by this, can we say that the Russia-China duo will emerge, and this Russia-China duo will pose a challenge to West? Can we say this particular thing? And if this happens, what will be implications for India? If this happens, what will be implications of India? Now, in this particular capacity, it has been provided that, see, before 2014, now why 2014? Because 2014 Crimea annexation was done by Russia, and after Crimea was annexed by Russia, large sanctions were imposed on Russia by West. Okay, so after 2014 situation changed, but before 2014 situation was something different. Before 2014, Russia and China were not that much close, and something is there from Cold War time also. When we talk about Cold War, during Cold War era, particularly after 1978-79 open door policy that was adopted by China, by which China opened their economy, China-America ties became very little bit deep. And in Cold War times, it was seen that the China is more America. China is pro-America. So therefore, Russia-China equations were not that much good. But in 2000 and post 2014, economic sanctions were imposed on Russia. Russia wanted a big economic partner, and who became an economic partner of Russia? China. So Russia-China relations became more close. After that, guys, what happened? Ukraine war started, and after Ukraine war, even more sanctions were imposed on Russia. So again, it more gravitated towards China. So this is something that has happened, but at same time, still mistrust. Okay, mistrust, suspicion is there between both the countries, and therefore Russia will not put all their eggs in the same basket. Russia is also very clever. They will not put all their eggs in the same basket. They will not become completely dependent on China. They are looking for partners, and Russia will look for partners majorly in Asia, and East Asia and India will become important. And one example of this particular thing, that how it aims to include more countries of Asia in calculus, is the two initiatives that has been started by Russia. What these two initiatives are? Number one is north-south transport trade corridor, and second is Chennai Vladivostok maritime corridor. Now let me show you these two initiatives of Russia. Okay. Yes. So here you can see. That right now, if India wants to carry any trade with Russia right now, so we need to go through the Suez Canal, Mediterranean Sea, North Sea, okay, and then after crossing the Baltic Sea, we reach St. Petersburg, Russia. This trade route is there. Now, this trade route has a certain problems. Number one problem is that this trade route is very lengthy. This trade route is very lengthy. Second, through this particular trade route, we are not able to cater Central Asian region, and already India is running its Connect Central Asia policy. Okay, so therefore what has happened, a new initiative has been started, and that is North-South Transport Corridor. North-South Transport Corridor, and this red one is this new corridor. Okay, so it will connect St. Petersburg, Moscow, Astrakhan, Azerbaijan, Iran, and at Bandar Abbas port in Iran, it will culminate. Okay, and this route will be more short. Okay, this route will also help India to connect through Central Asian economies. So here also, guys, if you remember, we have seen one text and context article also, which was on the operationalization of this trade route. So this trade route has also operationalized. So by this huge connectivity project, we can see that Russia is counting on India also. And the second is Chennai Vladivostok corridor. So let's see this also. Okay, so Chennai Vladivostok corridor. Okay, so here we see Chennai Vladivostok corridor. It will connect India to Russia, Vladivostok. Now, guys, when we talk about Vladivostok, it happens to be one of the important centers of Russia towards the eastern Russia, And guys, when we talk about Eastern Russia, now Russia is considering the rapid developmental projects for Eastern Russia, and it wants to ensure that Eastern Russia also becomes economically even more important. And for that particular thing, this trade route has been started. Okay, now it will help to meet the demand and supply measures also around over the next 5 to 20 years. This will become a major route of cargo movement from not only India but entire Asia to Russia. Okay, so this is something that is there. Okay, or also this particular trade route is important because, guys, if you know, Russia has a huge reserves of oil and gas, and India imports a lot of crude oil from Russia. In fact, in 2022, Russia became the biggest crude oil supplier of India. So basically, if we want to avoid Middle East, we can import crude oil through this particular route. So this has been started. So these two projects clearly show that Russia does not want to put all their eggs in same basket, and they are looking to explore more meaningful partners, and in that India is going to be a meaningful choice. Fine. Now, further moving on in this particular direction. So this is something that is going on. Now, guys, so the next thing that comes is that between Russia and USA, already there are antagonizations going on. Already they are irritated with each other. And at the same time, we see between USA and China also irritants have increased. So you see here. So calculus is something like this. Now, on one hand, Russia and China are there. On another hand, West is there. West, including US and Europe. Now, when we talk about India, now India has good relations with USA and West. At the same time, India also is maintaining relations with Russia and China. Now, but Russia and China and West, they are adversaries of each other. And right now, we are maintaining balance with the both by using the concept of strategic autonomy. Now, what is strategic autonomy? So, right now, India's foreign policy is characterized by strategic autonomy, under which it is provided that India is free to choose its own partners. India is free to choose its own partner on the basis of need and exigency. India will not have any permanent friend. India will not have any permanent ally. Please use one particular word: transactional approach. India's foreign policy will be guided by transactional approach. So by the usage of these words such as transactional approach, by usage of the words such as the strategic autonomy, India is maintaining independent relation with the both. But if tension between these two camps increase furthermore, then there might be a situation where India has to choose one. Either India has to choose Russia, China, or India has to choose West. Okay, there might be a time that will come in this particular capacity. There, then the problems will emerge for India. Then India has to make a choice. Then India has to make a choice. Okay, and it will reduce the maneuverability of India. That one concern will come. But guys, as of today, if we see, that problem might come in the near future or in medium future. But right now, there is no such issue. Now, at the same time, guys, when we talk about the India and USA, though India-US relations have deepened, but it does not mean that they are perfect. For example, India and USA already they have signed a nuclear deal in 2008, and India was supposed to get 6 nuclear power reactors from America, but they have not come. They have not come. Also, guys, occasional irritants also emerge between India and USA. For example, on first page we have seen one article, okay, where one Indian national has been indicted by USA for playing a role in killing of a leader, okay, killing of a person. Okay, now moving in this particular capacity, guys, further it is provided that at the same time with the China, it does not mean that though China, we have competition with China, but relations with China are entirely bad. With China, on the China also, economic dependence of India is there. Economic relations between China and India are also very much deep. Now in this particular capacity, if you see, in this particular capacity, if you see, in this particular capacity, if you see, so we see this particular thing that, okay, yes. So in this particular capacity, what we should do, on one hand, we have deep partnership with USA, which has a lot of potential. We need to ensure that that time to time irritants that come in between, they should be removed. But at the same time, to deal with the China, certain things have to be kept in mind. Number one, we have to acknowledge that the China is going to be a long term competitor in Asia. China is going to be a long term competitor in the Asia, and China will put considerable pressure on India. First, this particular thing has to be recognized. Then secondly, guys, we also need to understand that there is a huge power asymmetry between India and China. Power asymmetry is there, and this particular asymmetry, though, let's say, if not increasing, it will stay there for a considerable period of time. Okay, now India at the same time also becoming economically powerful. Economic clout of India is also increasing. So India needs to ensure that as its economic clout is increasing, it should invest more on the modernization of our defense forces. Okay, and at the same time, internally as well as externally, India has to respond. What is internally we have to do? There needs to be societal cohesion internally, so that we are better equipped to deal with external challenges. And second, when we talk about the external balancing, we need to ensure that we balance out we balance out the relations with US and China in a very careful manner. For example, if we will have very good relations with the USA itself, it will counter China itself, it will become deterrent in the minds of the China. So very craftily we need to balance out our relations with the US and China at the same time. Okay, so this is all about this particular article. And now moving to next article. Okay, now here we have an article from the text and context section. Understanding simultaneous elections. Understanding simultaneous elections. This article will take with respect to GS paper number 2, polity and related issues. Polity and related issues. Okay, fine. First of all, guys, what do we mean by the idea of simultaneous elections? So simultaneous elections simply means a phenomena under which we will have at the same time elections for Parliament, Lok Sabha, as well as for state legislative assemblies. Now, if you know, guys, India every year is hosting elections. Either they will be Lok Sabha elections or there will be state legislative assembly elections. Recently, we have seen elections were conducted in Rajasthan, they were conducted in Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, elections have been conducted. Next year, there will be Lok Sabha elections, general elections 2024. Last year also, there were like many of the states went to election polls. So point is that every year, we have elections in one or the other part of the country and continuously we are into the election mode. Guys, as of today, only few states are there which are having its elections with the Lok Sabha elections. For example, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim. These are the states whose elections coincide with Lok Sabha elections. Now, proposal has been given at multiple occasions by Prime Minister and by other leaders that we need to explore the idea of simultaneous elections, having election at the same time for both Parliament as well as State Legislative Assembly. Now, in this particular article, guys, a ready-made answer has been given to you that what are the benefits, what are negatives, and what are the challenges that will come in this capacity. Constitutional challenges with respect to articles that have to be amended, what problems will come. So a ready-made answer has been given in this article. Now, first of all, what has happened recently, Union government has notified a 6-member panel also to examine and recommend as how feasible is to hold simultaneous elections in India. Will it help or will it not help? Okay, so under the chairmanship of former president, okay, Mr. Ramnath Kovind, so this committee has been constituted. Okay, also it will see that what amendments are to be brought and what is the scope of Article 368. Article 368 talks about amendment. Now there are multiple types of amendments that are there. So which type of amendment will be needed to bring this particular change? Because many of political experts have said that if you want to bring simultaneous election, you need to pass it by special majority and ratification of 50% of states is also to be needed. So whether it is needed or not, all these matters will be investigated by this 6-member committee that has been constituted. Now, let's see that what are the arguments in favor as well as arguments against holding simultaneous election. Number one, fine, we are going to see the arguments in the favor of holding simultaneous election. Number one that comes here is that, guys, every year as we are conducting elections, it poses massive expenditure. It poses massive expenditure. A lot of money is to be spent on this particular exercise. But if simultaneous election will be there will be only one electoral roll for all the elections of the country. And at the same time, we need not to see every year now we have to deploy security forces because in one or the other part of the country elections are going on. That particular thing will be reduced. Expenditure that is happening every year, it will come down. Okay. Second, okay, as dense electoral cycle is there, every year elections are there is a prolonged deployment of security and police forces on election duty. Teachers have to be diverted on election duty. Many government employees have to be diverted for election duty. What it leads to the problem of maintenance of law and order, and perpetually as we are in election mode, it again disturbs many of the developmental works. And as we talk about the developmental work, guys, you know this particular thing that the model code of conduct is applied once the elections are notified in a particular state. And when model code of conduct is applied, new developmental works, new schemes, okay, cannot be started by ruling party, okay, or cannot be started. Now this particular thing brings a kind of a vacuum for developmental work. So if only one time election are there in 5 years, it means no such disruption will come. Then fourth that comes is there, if there will be simultaneous election, it will also reduce expenditure by political parties. See, now, for example, if every year there are elections, let's say BJP, Congress, every year they have to spend the money. But if there are simultaneous election with the Lok Sabha, they need not to spend additionally or extra for the state assembly elections. In the same campaigning, they will also be covered. Okay. Then next issue that comes here is that it is argued that too many election creates a sense of fatigue amongst the electorates, amongst the voters. It creates a fatigue. They becomes disinterested in voting. But if there is only once a time election in 5 years, it will reduce that particular fatigue and voter participation, voter turnout will actually increase. Okay, voter turnout will actually increase. So all these are arguments that have been given in favor of simultaneous elections. Now, what are arguments against simultaneous elections? Arguments against simultaneous elections. So, the first argument that is being said, that it is antithetical. It is antithetical to federal spirit of the nation. Why antithetical? So basically, it is provided that if there will be one election or a common election that will be held, national issues will be given more priority. National issues will be given more priority. Local issues will become subdued under national issues. Okay, let's say once a time election are happening. Now guys, understand there are many voters who want a different party at the center and who want a different party at state. Okay. Okay, now guys, what might happen that as elections for Lok Sabha will also held together, the campaigning that is being done for national issues, they will become so important that it will overpower national local issues. It will overpower local issues. So this is one problem. Second problem that is going on, the second problem that is going on is there that it will push local and regional issues to periphery. Already we discussed. Then thirdly, guys, we need to procure large number of EVM. VVPAT, voter verifiable paper audit trail machines. Right now they are being used. Okay, they are being moved from one part to other part of the country. But if simultaneous elections, large number of these machinery is to be procured, it will include more expenditure. Then it is said that, see, rather than now, if you see earlier, we have seen that it creates fatigue in the voters when every elections are there. It is being said that no, it does not create fatigue. Rather, it keeps the voter enthusiast. If elections are going on, it keeps the voter enthusiast. And also, it is being said this particular thing that if regular elections are there, political parties will become more accountable to people. Okay, they will reach to people more frequently. Okay, so all these particular arguments have been made. All these arguments have been made against simultaneous elections. So rather than having election at one time, multiple elections should be allowed to continue. Now, what are legal and constitutional challenges that will come in this particular capacity? So basically, it is being provided that to implement simultaneous elections, we need to amend Article 83, Article 85, Article 172, Article 174 of the Constitution. Okay. Now, what these major articles are talking about? Article 83 and 85. They particularly relate to the duration and dissolution of Lok Sabha. Okay. Article 172, 174. They relate to the duration and dissolution of the state assemblies. Okay. Now, guys, when we talk about Article 85 and Article 174. Now, as per Article 85 and Article 174, now in the case of Article 85, President, and in the case of Article 175, Governor, they can dissolve the Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha before the completion of their tenure of 5 years under the circumstances mentioned into the Constitution. Okay. Article 83 allows that tenure of Lok Sabha can be extended for 1 year at the time when emergency is imposed. Emergency is imposed under Article 352. Okay. And for states, Article 172 is there. Now, guys, the point is there that why election cycle got disrupted. Election cycle actually got disrupted because of the premature dissolutions that have happened. Premature dissolutions have happened, and sometimes extensions that have happened under the extenuating circumstances such as emergency. And again, if this particular thing happened, again it will disturb the entire cycle. So before bringing about a simultaneous election, we need to consider whether these particular provisions should continued in the same sense or it should be amended. Many experts should be said that there should be no provision of extending the duration. Okay, or there should be no provision of extending the duration because it will disturb in the future. So what should be the amendment that are to be brought? These are some things that are to be now consulted, are being discussed. So this is, guys, all about the simultaneous elections. Further, it has been provided that before bringing simultaneous election, we need to consider that what large impacts will be on society, and enough deliberation discussion should be taken before taking it up. So that is all about it. And then one issue already I have told you. Also, it is to be considered whether the ratification of half of the states is needed or not. Whether ratification of half of the states is needing or not. Navy gets ready for its biggest naval exercise amid ocean engagements. There are 3 articles that have come today on defense. Okay. First is Navy gets ready for its biggest naval exercise amid ocean engagements. Second is 2.23 lakh crore 2x97 Tejas jets, 150 Prachand helicopters. Then 3 anti-submarine warfare ships for Indian Navy launched. So all these 3 articles we have clubbed together and we are going to see these developments here. Okay. So guys, the first development is important for your prelims examination. So basically guys, India is going to host its biggest military exercise, that is Milan. Okay, and Milan exercise is scheduled for February 2024. And why it is going to be the biggest exercise? Because in this exercise 50 countries are going to participate. So exercise Milan will be held in February 2024 and over 50 countries will participate in this, and it shows India's capacity in Indian Ocean region. It also shows that how Indian Navy has become such a how Indian Navy has become such a preferred partner for so many of the countries. Okay. Also guys, when we talk about India, there are 17 multilateral and 20 bilateral exercise that Navy is conducting every year. Along with that, Milan exercise is also going to be conducted. Now, why these exercises are important? What is the role and significance of these exercises? So these exercises play a very important and significant role where countries can come together, they can exchange best practices, they can get to know about each other's strategic tactical knowledge sharing can happen. Also operational capabilities can be improved. Fine, they can build mutual trust. It fosters interoperability. It strengthens the maritime security ties, diplomatic ties. So for this purpose, these exercises happen to be very important. Okay. And one more thing guys, that December 4 is observed as Navy Day. So today is 1st December. After 3 days, Navy Day will be observed. And why December 4 is chosen as Navy Day? One trivia. So it is observed as Navy Day because on 4th of December 1971, during this particular time, India's Navy carried a daring attack on Karachi Harbour under Operation Trident. Okay. Then next is that guys, here the next article that we have is 3 anti-submarine warfare ships for Indian Navy launched. Okay. So Indian Navy has launched 3 of the ships, that is INS Mahe, INS Malwan and INS Mangrove. Now these 3 ships, they have these 3 submarines have been anti-submarine ships have been launched. And who have developed them? They have been developed by Cochin Shipyard. And then the last one is that Defense Acquisition Council, DAC, Defense Acquisition Council, which happens to be the highest body for clearing the defense acquisition proposals by the 3 defense forces. Fine, that is the Army, Navy and Air Force. So Defense Acquisition Council clears their projects. So it has decided that for our defense forces, procurement of 2.23 lakh crore rupees will be made. And under this particular procurement, defense forces, they are going to procure 97 Tejas light combat aircrafts, 156 Prachand combat helicopters. Okay. Also other weaponaries and medium range anti-ship missiles will be procured for Navy. Now medium range anti-ship missiles, this is surface to surface missile and will be used as a primary offensive weapon, will be deployed over Navy ships. So all these proposals have been clarified. Now you are not required to go in detail that which missile, which gun, which bullets. Fine, that detailed list you need not to go. You need to know about the major acquisitions that have been cleared. Now all this will help India to make a it will help India to become a powerful India. It will help India to pose powerful defense capabilities. Okay. Now moving on to next article. Okay. For the first time, Kerala to host transplant games. Now this article guys, you can use as a case study in health. GS paper number 2, health related answers, you can use it as a case study. Okay. Now what this entire issue is all about guys, you might be knowing a person who might have either given an organ donation or have received an organ, or you might have heard about these people either through your friend or your family members. Okay. Now, often we perceive that a person, if they have given an organ or if they have received an organ, they become very much vulnerable to disease. They cannot do physical exercise. They become confined to their homes and to very guarded environments. They don't participate in physical activity. They cannot participate in physical activity. Okay. And it has been said that actually an organ transplant is not an extension of life. It is actually a curative and help recipients to lead a normal life, but people are not doing it. People are not doing it. So therefore, what Kerala has done, Kerala is organizing transplant games, and these are competitive sporting games in which the people who have either donated an organ or people who have received an organ, they are going to participate. Even medical fraternity is divided that whether the person who has donated organs can lead a healthy life or not. So to burst all the myths and to propagate the message that they can live a healthy life and should involve in physical exercises and work, Kerala is organizing these transplant games. And there are also, guys, World Transplant Games Federation. It is a worldwide organization, okay, in which the 70 countries participate. They also hold this particular games. Okay. Now, this particular event will honor and will celebrate the courage and determination of organ recipients and selflessness of donors who have donated their organs. Okay, so this is the event that is going to be organized, and total 10 events will be there, such as bowling, badminton, dart, chess, carom, basketball. Okay, all these things will be there. Fine. Now, one thing is that, guys, that you can use these particular things as an example in your answers. Full-fledged question will not come on this particular kind of thing. Now, moving on. And whatever your doubts are, you can please write in your comment box and I'll respond it after we have done with this particular discussion. Loss and damage fund cleared on day 1 of COP28 summit. So, guys, already we have seen in yesterday that from Thursday, that is yesterday, COP28, Conference of Parties edition 28 has started in Dubai, in which UNFCCC countries, the countries who have signed United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, they will come and they discuss strategies as how to ensure that temperature does not rises beyond 2 degrees Celsius, and if possible, temperature should not rise above 1.5 degrees Celsius. Now, in this particular meeting, a lot of things will happen, and as a day will pass, we'll see what developments have happened. So on day 1, that is yesterday, loss and damage fund has been cleared. Loss and damage fund has been cleared. Now, guys, first of all, let's understand that what is this loss and damage fund. So basically, loss and damage fund will be a dedicated pool of money which will be transferred to those countries who are facing damage because of climate change. For example, guys, many of island nations are there who are dependent completely on tourism. But because of temperature rise, sea level is rising, a large areas of coast, they are now going to submerge. They will face losses on tourism. Tourism revenue will be lost. So they are facing a loss. Some countries will be damaged by the climate change. So in order to compensate them, this loss and damage fund is being created. Now this is different from the mitigation fund. Mitigation fund is different, so loss and damage fund is different. Actually, this loss and damage fund was agreed last year in Egypt. Loss and damage fund, it was cleared last year in Egypt. Okay. Now, when we talk about the loss and damage from climate change, estimatedly, it will be $1.5 trillion losses will be. Loss and damage fund from climate change cost about $1.5 trillion in 2022 alone. And this is based on to the study that is published by the University of Delaware. And it is being said that many of developing countries, okay, they will see a loss of around 8.3% of their GDP. Around 8.3% of their GDP would be lost due to climate change. So these countries are to be compensated. And for that, this loss and damage fund was proposed was agreed in Egypt in last year. Okay. And now, guys, what has happened? This has formally launched. And already $250 million have been given to this particular fund. Now, this particular fund, as we talk about this particular fund will be based at World Bank. Okay. World Bank will be hosting this particular fund, okay, fine, it will be hosted at World Bank. World Bank will be the interim host for 4 years, and after that some other mechanism will be seen. Okay, now guys, when we talk about this particular fund, money in this particular fund will come on the basis of the voluntary payments. Voluntary payments means no binding is there. Any rich country, including the developing country, if they want, they can donate. Okay, so money will be coming here on the voluntary basis. Okay, and certain part of money of this particular fund will be used specifically for least developed countries and the small island developing states. Okay, but some irritants are there in this particular fund. Number one irritant, suppose right now $250 million are there. Let's say this all $250 million have been given to the countries. How it will be replenished? How more money will come? If there are no voluntary or no binding commitments that are there, how you assure that regular money is coming? What are the principles on which the countries can get the money? So these particular things have not been agreed, and this might become an irritant in the times to come. Okay. Now, moving to question for today. So today's main practice question that we have: China has seen a phenomenal rise economically and militarily over the past 4 decades. How is China's rise affecting the global order? So we'll take this particular article with respect to GS paper number 2, International Affairs. 10 marker question. So that is all guys about it. And with this, we have come to an end to the today's session. Guys, I hope that you have understood it. Okay. And with this, we culminate the session. Now guys, we'll be meeting tomorrow. Till then, please take care of yourselves. Thank you so much.